Hey guys, so I just got back from a hike and I'm in the mood to make a video. Now, there's been times in the past where I've been in the feels, I've been in the mood to make a video, and I thought, I'll just put it off till tomorrow. And tomorrow came, and I didn't make the video because the mood had passed. So I literally just got back, grabbed the stand, grabbed the phone, and I'm making the video. Didn't even change clothes because even something as simple as changing one's outfit or taking a shower or preparing could potentially shift the state, shift the mood. And it's towards the end of the hike, and it's really thinking about something that happened yesterday, and I want to share it with you. And before I thought myself out of it, or before, tomorrow came and I was no longer in the mood, then, I really want to make the video right now. And I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth between past tense and present tense, but I think you feel what I mean. Thinking feelingly. That's a thing. To think with feeling. To kind of merge the masculine and the feminine forces consciously. To apply them so that they're in a harmonious balance. And when they are, the state is naturally joyous. It's a flow state. You're operating from a non-resistant frequency. That's essentially what pleasantness, joyousness is a state of non-resistance. And when you're in that state, there's a natural sense of willingness to engage with life, wholehearted involvement. It's beautiful. But the topic I want to share with you today is something that I witnessed yesterday. While I was hiking, I met a man, and there was this peculiar feeling, an instant recognition that he was a reflection. He is a reflection of a long-standing friendship. And that's actually something I mentioned somewhere in our conversation. I asked him, I was like, do you ever think about past lifetimes and if we could potentially have been friends in a previous lifetime? And the thought at root of that question has to do with the immortality of friendship. That's something I've often thought about. People that have shown up in my life, in our life. There's no separate life. It's all one collective whole. We're all a part of the same life, but you know what I mean? It's speaking in conversation, which is somewhat limiting. Language can be limiting and constricting, but you know what I mean. But there's been times during this one's life where I've met people, and I got that sense, got that feeling of, I feel like I know you. Of course, there's that base of awareness that we fundamentally are. Thoughtless awareness. It's simply the witness of all that's happening. And even that word, happening, can be restricting. The limitation of language. It's all about context, though, and to bring the subjective experience down to the realm of logic, we have to incorporate concepts to appeal to the analytical mind, the masculine part of the mind, so that we can try to intellectualize subjective experience, which is fundamentally indescribable from that baseline of awareness that we fundamentally all are. We might think of ourselves as being a brother, a mother, a father, a sister, an employee at this facility. But essentially, when it comes down to it, we are what's aware of that intellectual construct, that concept in the mind. What is aware of us being that label, that role, that function in this reality, this physical world. Because essentially, if we identify with that solely, we're limiting ourselves, our concept of ourselves, to the body. And that limits us and restricts us and prevents us from tuning in and realizing that essentially we are that awareness that's aware of being that. In terms of radical truth and radical reality, essentially something can only be what it is now. It can't even do anything, because that implies a duality, as if there is a separate doer. When actions and awareness are one, we're in that flow state, which walking is great to get into that space. It's where I'm in now, and that's why I want to share this vibe with you. And I'm glad I'm doing so. You know, it's been a minute since I've made a video. You know, it's something I've thought about, but I certainly don't identify with this YouTube channel. I see it as an extension of my inner world, the subjective reality, radical reality, which is fundamentally truth, and truth is only relevant in terms of context. And in this physical reality, we often tend to think of things in terms of relativity. If you think of Einstein and the theory of relativity, he maxed out the level of consciousness, we could call it, we could describe it as, of logic. He took that to the maximum, as far as logic can go, as far as the realm of reason and the analytical mind can interpret and describe and intellectualize the physical world. He maxed that out, but there's a realm beyond that. Realms beyond that, infinite realms, infinite universes. You know, I was having a conversation with one of my cousins recently, young man, and you know, doesn't necessarily have a positive masculine role model in his life. So I thought I'd take some time to go on a walk with him and kind of, you know, observe what he had to say. And beautiful mind, very thoughtful for a young man. And some of the things he was saying really was kind of surprising to me. And I mention that because I see him as transcending the realm of logic, transcending the mind. Because the mind is essentially a tool, you know. A lot of us tend to identify with the body, or even the mind. There's the physical body, the mental body, but there's fundamentally realms, bodies beyond that. There's an etheric body, and a bliss body. And when we raise our frequency through the practice of self-control, which eventually leads to a wholehearted surrender, when we get our lower desires under control, our animalistic propensity to eat, sex, and sleep, when we have those different aspects of the human experience under our control, under our conscious awareness, then there comes a point where we naturally are happy, because we reach that space where we release. It's a wholehearted surrender onto radical reality, subjectivity, divinity within. There's that surrender, and that allows us to access these higher spiritual realms. And of course, I say higher, but we don't want to think of that in terms of better. Higher is simply a label to describe seeming opposition, but it's not really opposition. It's all a part of the same fundamental source. Of course, this source is expressing itself in infinite varieties, and the varieties of spice of life. Infinite frequencies. When we look around us and see all these various expressions, it's that sense of mysteriousness. What is at the source of all this? What is at the source of this one? And we can really only know something not only by being it, but by witnessing it within ourselves. And then by inference, we can know everything else around us. Not from a place of analysis, but from a place of experiential knowledge. From having witnessed that within yourself, you know that's what everything else fundamentally is. But of course, staying there forever is not practical, because nature is in perpetual flux, and we are an extension of divinity, expressing as nature. We are nature. But at the same time, we're transcendent to nature. Now, that's the seeming paradox. That's why some of us can get trapped in an intellectual box. If we identify with the mind in the realm of reason, we can go in endless loops, endless circles, in trying to describe and define the reality around us with the mind. But the mind is limited. The mind is great. It's, as it says in the Hermetica, two great gifts of the human being, speech and mind. It allows us to be immortal. But at the same time, it can be limiting if we solely identify with the mind. We want to ultimately transcend the mind. It's not something that we, as a separate entity, need to set out to do as if is it a desire. Although is that heartfelt longing, which is distinct from desire. See, it's where it's important to be conscious of the words we use, because they can stimulate different meanings and imaginings and the person we're communicating to. Now, of course, there's, depending on the person, depending on their level of consciousness, what is being communicated could be received in a completely different way than it's intended. But we really want to perceive the essence, not so much focus on the words themselves, although they're important too, but perceive the essence, the space where the words are coming from within the communicator. Is it coming from a space, a place of personal identity based on personal history and personal memories, or is it coming from a place, a space that's impersonal? It's kind of just flowing naturally, and of course it's conscious, but at the same time it's simply allowing. There's no conscious monitoring, it's simply flowing because it's in that space that we could call a flow state. There's a great book, it's called Flow by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, and a lot of practical elements in there to assist us intellectually to put into practice these elements so that we can make flow a priority and get into that space day in and day out. And after a while, it's just your automatic base state of consciousness. You're kind of in that all the time. Of course, there's different frequency states that we can access: beta, alpha, gamma, delta, and all these different frequency states. We really want to think in terms of frequency, energy, and vibration, not just in terms of materiality and form, because there's something beyond form. Everything's fundamentally energy. And actually, it's also mostly empty space. When we think in terms of physics, and even physics, I'm talking about the realm of logic, is limited. Modern science has tried to define and describe what life is with words and concepts, and we've done a great job, but at the end of the day, it's something beyond the mind. Of course, everything in manifestation is an extension or reflection of the mind, like the topic of conversation that inspired this video, the Immortality of Friendship. Interesting character. Talk about synchronicity too. When you're in that flow state, that space within yourself, naturally there's going to be a lot of synchronicities every day. I met this character, and we hiked down together. Usually when I'm hiking, I'm very quiet, silent, and in my own world, but at the same time connected to the world around me, in that space of essence. But something told me to connect with this character, and we hiked down together. And it's funny, some of the things we talked about, I mentioned calves pen in Lake George, and we were talking about mushrooms and different psychedelic experiences we've had, and we exchanged information at the bottom of the mountain. And come to find out, the only social media I have is this YouTube channel. I do have a Instagram, but I haven't been on there for a while. But he said he had an Instagram, and he's a painter, and I told him I'd follow him, and so I logged onto Instagram and saw his page, and come to find out, he had a painting of his calves pen, which we had talked about. He didn't mention it. I actually brought it up in the conversation. He never mentioned that, he had a painting on his Instagram page, but I got home, went on there, found out, wow, he actually has a beautiful oil painting. Has made a beautiful oil painting of calves pen, something we had talked about. And he also had several paintings of mushrooms, which I thought was funny because he didn't mention it either in the conversation, something I brought up. So it's like I was an extension of his subconscious mind, and simultaneously he was an extension of my subconscious mind. We had a lot of things in common too. We were talking about running. He did running and cross country in high school. So did I. And there's so many different things in common. You know, the details are great. But at the same time, we can get lost in details. Details are great if we're looking at what's before us, whether it be the food we're eating, giving it proper attention to something we're eating. We're about to make it a part of this human being. It's what we eat is transformed into a human being. If you think about that, that's miraculous. I take this piece of food, ingest it, and it becomes a human being. What's doing that? Certainly not my intellectual mind. I'm not conscious of it. All these different processes happening within us without us, necessarily being aware of it. It's involuntary. And that kind of brings me back to, I know I'm jumping back and forth a little bit, but talking to my cousin. And one of the things he had mentioned was, he was talking about, he actually used the word attention, and he was talking about microbiology and how there's an unseen reality. And I mentioned to him that, there's universes within us. If you think about it in terms of biology, just what's happening within us. Not only the different spiritual realms that we can access, but also on a physical level, all the different organisms within us that are alive, and there's billions of different bacteria on our skin, and just the vast complexity of this universe. But at the same time, it's blissful simplicity. It's both ends of the spectrum simultaneously. That's why there's essentially no duality, no division, no opposition. You can describe things in terms of higher and lower, of course, but it's all part of that same fundamental awareness that is the baseline reality. What is aware right now? What is aware while I'm speaking, while you're watching? We share that which is aware within us. It's simultaneous. You may think in terms of difference, as if, I am different from you. But the fundamental I am is that baseline of awareness, that which is aware of everything. And we can access that space of consciousness. We can call it, we can label it consciousness, awareness. There's many different labels, but we don't want to get hung up on the label. Awareness is simply a witness of what is. And it's a space kind of where you really feel, and feel may not even be the best word, maybe sense, or really just deeply embody a sense that you are, everything around you is you. There is no difference. And we can access that space. We can call it an intelligence, infinite intelligence, it's been called, in Napoleon Hill, or in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a great book. Talk about synchronicity. The first time I was reading that book, really getting into it deeply, I was in an airport, and this lady came up to me, I've always been kind of that character that does my own thing. I was off in the corner, like, don't bother me sort of vibe, sitting on the floor. Recently, I was in court, and I had my meditation piece of doing some japa mantra, and I was sitting in the back on the floor, doing my beads, and the judge was like, I want him to come up first. So me kind of being outside of the box, non-conforming. It's not that I'm intentionally trying not to conform. It's just kind of always what I've naturally done is go against the grain. I kind of saw this reality is kind of funny, instinctively, intuitively. And thus I've kind of just been done my own thing naturally. But the judge is like, I want that guy, because I'm back there touring my beads, and got me out of there quickly. Kind of just the world perceiving me differently, because I'm comfortable with being me and being myself, and naturally that's reflected in everybody else. Everybody else feels comfortable around you. You can call it confidence, stability, comfortability, whatever, but when you're in that space, that feminine force is operating at full force within you, there's naturally a sense of balance, and everybody else feels it too. Feeling's a secret. As men, a lot of us have lost touch with that sense of feeling, lost in the concepts, but we want them to be operating at full force in a proper balance. The yin and the yang, the masculine and feminine. Two ends of the same pole, they need not be in opposition. They can be operating in harmony and a joyous balance. And thus we experience synchronicity. And, we can go off on tangents. And we allow ourselves to do so, because we're not controlling, we're simply allowing. And I was about to say something about, before I mentioned that court experience, and I kind of lost it. It'll probably come back to me as I'm watching this before I post it, to make sure I want to post it. And of course I do, because, it's all about the state that I'm in. It's not so much as what's being said, but the vibration that's I'm putting out to the world by broadcasting this, by communicating it, by putting it online, which, kind of the matrix. The internet is the matrix, kind of. But it's all about how we use it. It need not be something that we are limited by intellectually, because we can use it. It need not use us. There was a time where it was using me. I'd pull out the phone and I'd be scrolling on Facebook, and the phone was using me. It's kind of, we could call it demon, mental demon, where it's just like sucking your energy, your time, your attention, without even really being conscious of it, because it was a habit, for me at least. And, of course it's not now, because, I'm very conscious of how I utilize time, and very grounded in the moment. Only utilize the internet intentionally, consciously. It's not using me, certainly. And so I got rid of the social media. There are a lot of egos on there. A lot of people posting stuff that just doesn't resonate with me, and that's okay. I'm sure there's people out there that have Facebooks and Instagrams and stuff that it's very controlled and streamlined, and they see only what they want to see, and that's great. But for me, I'm kind of an old school guy. I like reading books. I like holding it in my hands, being tuned into this basic reality. What's around me right now. And the internet can, there can be a tendency to kind of get lost in it. I know it was for me at times. I'd feel like, holy shit, I've spent 2 hours just, what have I done? on the internet. You know, it's different if you're intentionally using it and you're listening to something that can increase your vibration, something that can be transmitted to you, state transference. There's certainly a lot of YouTube channels that's really resonate with, and there's that sense of connection, even though they could be on the other side of the world making these videos. I feel as if, you know, I am really resonating with the space from which they're communicating. Thus, I give them the attention. It's mutual, because they're providing a service that is needed and useful, and thus, you know, it's reciprocal. Everything. There's that sense of interdependence, innocence. Consciousness is fundamentally innocent, and we need not try to correct or fight ignorance that is born of innocence. It need not be corrected, because creation is perfection. It's in all its intrinsic bliss and harmony, joyousness. That is where we want to be in consciousness, that sense of joyousness. And I believe that's what we all fundamentally are naturally. That's why it's good to practice self-control and get these habits, such as, you know, using the phone unintentionally, or, you know, eating unconsciously, kind of just snacking without really thinking about it, without intention, or sexing, or whatever it is, you know, things that can potentially drain us, decrease our vibration, the life energy that we embody. We want to be conscious of that. Sexual energy. It's powerful. And I know I've been in kind of feminine vibes throughout this video, but we can really switch it up, and we can really embody. It's awesome to be in that space within yourself when you can kind of just, you know, you got the feminine, the dove, the beautiful, blissful peace, just that contentedness, acceptance with what is in the moment right now. But you also have that masculine kind of, and you can flip it instantly. I can go from being in that feminine state to, I'm going to run a marathon right now. And put on the shoes and go outside and run a marathon. You know what I mean? So it's great to be within that space, that fluidity, that flexibility within yourself, where you can be kind of like a chameleon and mold to whatever it is around you. You can fit in, blend in, be inconspicuous, kind of just, you know, be one with your environment. Look around us, all the nature. A cat sitting right here. She's one with the environment. She's naturally in harmony with what is. She's not thinking about tomorrow. Or maybe she is. I don't know. We don't know, right? The frog outside. They could have a mind too. You know, you really want to open ourselves up. That's something. I know it's getting kind of long. Probably lost a lot of you. I know there's at least a couple of you still watching though. I know there's a couple of you that have, you know, been consistently watching the videos, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you, you know, sharing your time, your energy, and attention. It's not about that for me. It's more about giving, but it's reciprocal. It's, you know, life is a great game of giving and receiving, and you know, the energy you put out comes back to you. As you reap, so shall you sow. You can say it many different ways, but, you know, it's not just a concept. It's something that we feel, we witness through experience. and synchronicity. Eternally. Right now. It's beautiful, blissful, peaceful. It's that sense of abundance, aliveness. That awareness. It's beyond concepts. Notice the ambience, the silence, the rain hitting the metal roof. It's very peaceful. You can tune into that, almost get lost in that. It's noise, yes, but in back of that there's that element of silence. And you can become one with it, whatever it is around you. Whether it's perceivably annoyance, could be a baby crying. There's actually no difference between that and the noise of the rain on the roof. It's sound, yes. It might be a different vibration, different frequency, different energy, but essentially, it's coming from that same space of silence, that place of bliss, that bliss body within us. We need not interpret it, like I made a video on here, why we're so sensitive to sounds on seeming attention. You know, I experienced some inner resistance to the loud trucks driving by, because that's kind of a modern thing. Like I said, I'm an old school guy, very in tune with kind of the primal side, we could call it, the instinctual side. And Big Mac trucks, I literally, when you're on seeming attention, man, yeah, I'm telling you, you're very sensitive, very tuned in, tapped in to what's around you. And even though while I'm in the house, there's not a lot of acoustical control, I feel it. I literally feel the vibrations reverberating within the body as these trucks are driving by. That's how sensitive you are when you retain this life energy, this sexual energy within you. It builds up within you, and it naturally leads to that sense of aliveness, that sense of connection with everything around you. And it's not just intellectual, it's visceral. You feel it. And of course, you can explore the realm of the mind to the max as well, like Einstein. And thus, there's that balance between the masculine and the feminine, operating at full force in a proper balance. That sexual energy rising up the spine, to the brain. And we can, depending on where we focus that energy, it's within us, within the inner cosmos, which is always a sense of bliss. Always tap into that. Always tune into that sense of silence, even when loud noises in the environment. You're arising from that space of silence. So, now again, I know I'm going back and forth a little bit. It's not really anything particular to follow, because at this point, in the video, it's getting up there in time. But hey, just flowing, going, living, breathing, being. It's beautiful, blissful, peaceful. I just want to share these vibes with you, man. Woman. Whatever you are. Fundamentally, you are that awareness. And I tell you that because I know that. I know whatever you are, I am. It's the same I am operating within me that's operating within you. That same force, that source that's transmuting that physical food into human, physical body. A cow eats a seed, a watermelon seed, and it turns into a cow. A human, Alex, eats a watermelon seed. It turns into a human. That's a beautiful thing. It's a certain karmic memory within the body. Multiple layers of memory. Memory is not just a thing of the mind. It's our DNA. It's biological memory, indiscriminate memory, discriminate memory. There's various different layers of memory within the body, within the mind, beyond the mind. But ultimately, we can all remember that fundamentally we are that awareness. And that's always with us. We need not even try to consciously seek it or remember it, because we know it intuitively, deeply, right now. Without even trying to. We could call it a thought in the way back in the mind, but it's not even a thought, because it's a simple awareness. Space that simply is. Along with everything else. No separation. This universe is one of harmony. And I feel that wholeheartedly. I know you do too. At least a deeper part of you. I love you. No, I don't say that. It's personality. I say I. Not from a personal place, but the divine I, the one I, the spiritual I, the all-seeing I, the eye in the sky, the one I, the I am. Is that awareness. That's all around us. That everything is. That beautiful bliss, that space within us where we know that we are this existence and everything in it. That space which is transcendent to all perceivable appearance. It is that essence within us. And it can also be a doubling up on words there. Kind of a conflicting way to say perceive essence, because essence is essentially beyond what we call perception, because perception is intellectual, it's of the mind. How we perceive the world, how we interpret it, how we identify and label and describe this and define that. That's of the realm of reason and logic and mind. But essence is beyond what can be described in terms of appearance, in terms of form. Because that fundamental essential awareness is beyond the form, transcendent to the form, but at the same time it is intertwined within it, expressing itself as it. And thus the eternal and the manifested worlds are one. Multiple universes. But at the same time, we could say everything's fundamentally one, but even that implies a duality. Because if everything's one, then, one implies that there's many. Or one implies that there's two. So if we want to think in terms of non-duality, everything's zero. And we could say it's empty, but it's not. It's not a space of voidness. It's more of a sense of allness, connectedness. Yes, it's a sense of spaciousness, that awareness, spaciousness, tuned into all that's around you. But it's really a deep sense of allness, not emptiness. You feel that you are everything. Absolute, complete, whole. And I know you feel that within you. You can access that through surrender, through wholehearted surrender. Surrender the personal history, the personal identity, the personal self that's essentially illusory. Of course, we use it to function in this reality, to communicate and interact with the world, and function in our, normal everyday life, whatever that may look for us. But, we really want to understand that we are fundamentally that awareness. And when we do, we can engage with the world in a way that, is so much more joyous, because you kind of let loose and you can relax without being kind of pent up and, thinking that when we identify with the personality, the body, the mind, there can tend to be more resistance and, a sense of separateness, and indeed not be that way. We want to be in a flow state, which is kind of a state of complete surrender where we let go, and it's a space of acceptance, a wholeheartedness. You feel connected with the world, and there's no restrictions. There's, you can really just let loose and be yourself and flow naturally in a sense of harmony. And everybody reflects that back to you. Like that dude that I met yesterday. It's a very joyous conversation. Talk about time. Time's only relative, because we hiked down the mountain. It's like, holy crap, we're already at the bottom. Like, we spent the whole time talking, and it was a very flowing conversation. It just everything seemed spontaneous and natural, and it was a very joyous experience. And when we're in that space of surrender within ourselves, acceptance of what is, not identifying with personal identity as if it's separate from who we may be communicating with, then everything just unfolds beautifully, harmoniously, naturally, joyously. I think that's all. God bless, guys. Take care. I'm sure I'll talk to you soon. I'm always with you. So I told my grandma. Since I've got my own place, I used to be a grandma's boy. I used to live with the grandma. Till I was 26, I lived with the grandparents. And, she's kind of has a heavy, clingy attachment style, relationship-wise. And, it's something that she's kind of learned throughout me moving, have my own place. It's been a growing experience for her, even though she's a grandma. Experience isn't necessarily in terms of time or in terms of age, in terms of calendar years. And she's had some growing up to do too, and I've helped her with that, and she's helped me grow up a lot as well. But since I've had my own place, she's kind of I had some letting go to do. I told my grandma, I was like, I'm always with you. Even though we're not physically together. The same source intelligence that's beating my heart that I am, that I identify with, that awareness that is within us simultaneously. Not just her and me, but you and me and everybody. I told her, even though this physical body is not with you, in front of you, I am is always with you. I am always with you. And I actually wrote her a note, and I think that's, the intention of particularly worded, so to allow her to let go and accept, even though I'm not physically with her, I'm still always with her. And she got that vibe. And I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I was supposed to end the video. But you see, when you're in that state of flow, you don't even know what you're going to say. Hell, you're in that surrendered state, you know what I mean? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Life is beautiful. Joyous. Joyous experience to witness this bliss and everything fundamentally is. Deep down, we're all that bliss. You can access that within us. You don't need to search it outside of us. Because the source of pleasure is within us. We may look for it on the outside to try to stimulate that which is already within us. But essentially, we can be that bliss. Be that bliss body. Without seeking it, without looking for it. We can tap into it, tune into it by first practicing self-control, getting the sexual desire and desire for food and desire to consume something outside of oneself under control, and allow that life energy, that sexual energy, and kundalini energy, whatever you want to call it, that vital force, the elan vital, to build up within us so that we can access this space of bliss and awareness within us, within everything, within everybody. Fundamentally, that's what everything is. But anyways, it's getting up there in time, so I'm just... Peace, love you, blessings. See you in the next one.